Hello folks, welcome to the Wilson Combat YouTube channel. Bill Wilson here with my old buddy Ken Hackathorn, and today we're going to discuss guns that have had a major impact on the firearms industry, and we're going to both kind of look at our crystal ball and give you our opinion of what we think some future trends might be. Ken, you spent a lot of years in the firearms training business. I know you were one of the first ones to do traveling training and that sort of thing. You were an instructor at gun sight at the early years and things like that. Where do you see the firearms training business going, with the current events of all the increasing crime, the unavailability and high prices of ammunition, and basically just in our current world? Where do you see firearms training going?
I wish I could say I have a real positive outlook, but I don't. I hope I'm wrong. But I think the firearms training world as we knew it is going to change, maybe not for the best. COVID really hammered the training business. Let's face it, a lot of people in the business didn't have any. I mean, let's face it, you couldn't go anywhere, you couldn't do very much. Now we've got the great ammo shortage pandemic, which is now kind of putting a nail in the coffin. While people say, well, I've got ammo and I'm going to take a class, very few people are. The guys I know that are doing it in the business, the amount of people canceling out of classes is pretty high because they just either they can't get it or they can't afford it. Mm-hmm. When you're paying, $600-700 for a case of ammo, 9mm cheap 115 grain ball just to take that 2-day class, that pretty much limits a lot of people. And they say, well, I've got the ammo, but the question is, can I replace it? Mm-hmm. And when at the reasonable price? So that's an effect. Everything, the training market's changed. Now life is about change. And we were discussing last night, some things in life we enjoy, mm-hmm. some we really are not very fond of, but we don't have a lot of control. The firearms market has changed, not only what the instructors are about in their direction, but certainly the student base. I saw in my 44 plus years or whatever it was in the training business, I saw the student base change. Mm-hmm. For example, when I first started, remember, you would rarely see a woman in a class. And if it was somebody's wife or girlfriend the guy brought to the class, and she didn't want to be there. Yeah. Well, by the time I quit, you had women signing up by themselves, coming to class, wanting to learn how to, shoot and perform and be capable of defending themselves from a combat marksmanship standpoint. So that was a big change. But if I told somebody during that whole COVID thing, we all spent too much time looking at YouTube videos. And they varied from some very good to some that you just wonder, where did these people come from? And I want you to be able to clue. If you got a guy that's a, quote, firearms instructor, and he's making a YouTube video showing you techniques, that's a clue. The guy doesn't have any business. Why would I give away for free on YouTube what I want you to pay me to come to class and learn? Yeah. That's an alarm, right? If you're a firearms trainer, you go, that guy doesn't have any business. And I love the guys that say, well, I've got classes scheduled clear through 2023. I don't care how many classes you got scheduled. How many can you fill? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of hocus pocus. The other thing, there's a term that's been around for a long time called the Blackwater fever. And Blackwater was a training site in mm-hmm. Virginia back in the day. They trained a great deal of people who went, say, to Iraq as contract security people. And it became a point where people dressed and wanted to have the beard, the bulked up body, the tattoos, all the gear. We call that Blackwater fever. And I started seeing people towards the end of my training era showing up for class with Blackwater fever. You're like, okay, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm a pharmacist. Okay, well, you got a war belt on. You're wearing your pistol in a holster that's, a special belt rig. It's got all of the stuff on it. Your holster sticks out from your body this far. That's not what you carry every day. But they want to look like a contractor, A lot of this have been influence has been from the former military people who went into the training business. They're used to wearing, say, war belts. They come and teach a class. Well, the students think, well, I'm going to take a class, so what do I need? Oh, I need a war belt. And they go out and spend $150 or more to getting a belt rig and all the stuff that they have to wear in a special holster and stuff. Well, they're never going to use that. They're not going on a patrol in the Hindu Kush. Or they're not going to be taking out terrorist networks, safe houses. So it kind of got sideways. A lot of former military people, particularly in the special operations community, have moved into the training business. And God bless them, most of them have got DD-214s. with accomplishments that you can't hardly believe. They're incredibly talented. Unfortunately, having a great background, or even being a good shooter, doesn't always translate to being a good teacher. Mm-hmm. And I tell people, remember, what you could do in Iraq and Afghanistan doesn't translate to the streets of America. And same thing, what a police officer can do doesn't translate to what you do in combat. For example, if you have to shoot a bad guy in somewhere in the Middle East, you're not going to go before a civilian review board to determine whether or not you made the right decision. Unlikely. You're not going to have to face a grand jury, you know. So military training, law enforcement training, private sector, what we'll call civilian training, are actually 3 different missions. They vary. Of what soldiers do and what cops do doesn't always carry over to what you and I are capable of. You know, I'm in the private sector now. You know, I don't have any law enforcement affiliation anymore, so I've got to think differently in how I respond. I see things going on in the training business that I kind of, you know, somebody asked me the other day, one of my old buddies, Dave Spalding, is still in the training business, and he's burning out pretty fast. And he was talking to me the other day about, he said, you ever thought about going back? And I get inquiries quite often, somebody, will you come back and teach one more class? Mm-hmm. And they offer me some very lucrative deals. Well, rule 1 is I believe in life, when you say I'm going to quit, you got to quit. Yeah. First off, I'm not sure I would fit in anymore. I'm not one of these guys that's going to hype, go faster. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to come in and tell you, you know, give me $500 in 2 days and I'll shave a second off your draw time. That's bullshit. We all know that. That's a gimmick. You know, they're teaching you parlor tricks. So I don't think I'd fit in, and you know what? I don't want to fit in. And I get people ask me training-oriented questions and stuff now, and you know what? I don't really even want to talk about it. I saw it grow into a huge market, I mean, far greater than I thought. Look how many people in the training business. Oh yeah. I told people, most places in America, in the community, you got a guy that's cooking Kydex holsters in his kitchen, another guy building ARs in his garage, and another guy over here that's, quote, a tactical firearms instructor, because he went to a couple of schools and now he's got the 511 clothes and he's got all this stuff and he's going to go out. He's got tattoos. It's real important now. They go out and they're saying, I'm going to show you how to fight with a handgun. Bottom line is, I don't think the future looks great. I think the market's is going to contract. It's going to shrink a lot. I don't think many people are going to survive. I get a guy not too long ago, he says, Mr. Hackathorn, I'd love to do what you do. What can you tell me? I said, don't quit your day job, kid. Because I don't think the market is going to be where it's at. Hope I'm wrong. Yeah. But I don't have a bright outlook on it. And by the way, the duration of this ammo thing will have a great deal to do with it. Yeah. If for some reason that market would come back real quick, I think the training business might survive. If it takes, say, 2 years, oh man, that's a long drought for people. Because let's face it, if you say, I make my living as a firearms trainer, and you don't have any business, you better find another way to make money. I started out early on, Bill, when it wasn't very lucrative. And I tell people, at the time I quit, I was making more money than I ever made in my life. That transition had changed dramatically, but it takes a while to build a clientele. There are certain instructors that are big name instructors. They will always have business because they're well known and well respected. A lot of the guys come in, I tell you, the training business today is a lot like the rock star industry. They come and they go. You can be a rock star for 6 months, 18 months, and then bingo, somebody else is a new rock star and you slide off the charts. We see that in the training business, particularly in what I will call the internet connected medium. You get guys that their names all over the place. This guy is, he's a rock star. You need to go get training from him. And you know what? 6 months, 18 months later, somebody else has replaced him. So I'm glad I'm not part of that anymore. I've got a question for you, Bill. What's your input as far as what you think the trends are in the future market of guns? I mean, just not pistols, but also long guns. Do you have any perspective that you think will probably be trends we're going to see?
Oh, I think we're going to see continuation of trends. I think you'll agree with me. As far as handguns are concerned, we live in a 9mm polymer pistol world now. Yep. Like it or not, 9mm is the most popular handgun caliber in the entire world. Not just America, but entire world. And whether we like it or not, future of handguns is going to, they're going to be polymer. I mean, a lot of them are going to be polymer, and a lot of them are going to be capable of or come with some sort of dot sight on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
that's one trend I see, as far as handguns, that's a trend I see.
All right. Let me ask you this one, since you brought it up. Touchy subject in some sectors. And again, it's almost like, I tell people this topic kind of like Republicans and Democrats, and that's red dot sights on pistols.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are really in favor of them, and other people are adamantly against them. What's your read?
Well, I think whether you like them or not, they're here to stay.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I had to throw out a percentage, I'd say we're maybe 75% to the point of them being perfected where you could actually really, really trust them on self-defense firearms to carry them every single day.
Mm-hmm.
They've improved, and prices have came down some, and availability is better and that sort of thing. Personally, I'm not a fan of them, but I don't have anything against them. I mean, for the people that like them, I mean, go for it, that's your deal. But even though I've got relatively poor close-up eyesight, which affects my ability to see the sights, I've still got 2015 distance vision, past you a little bit, but I can't see shit up here without my reading glasses or corrective lenses for that I shoot handguns with.
I know what you mean.
But even when I have to shoot a handgun without any corrective lens in my glasses or anything, out to 15 yards, I still shoot an iron-sighted handgun better than I shoot a dot sight gun.
Yep.
Past 15 yards, it's a different ball game then.
You're spot on.
But let's face it, self-defense deals, me taking care of a wounded hog or whatever, those all happen under 7 yards typically. And at 7 yards, I can still be pretty damn efficient, with an iron-sighted handgun. And I don't shoot any kind of like open competition or anything like that where I would need a dot sight. Personally, I don't have anything against it, but I don't have a personal need for a gun with a dot sight on it. With that said, obviously from the company, we have to offer guns with dot sights and capability to put the dot sights on them because it is a future trend. It's just not anything that personally excites me.
Before I quit shooting and before I retired, I started seeing more and more people showing up in classes with them. So I had some observations.
Mm-hmm.
And you're spot on, right? They're getting more rugged. To me, I'd say the first issue number one is durability.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, the market, my prediction is within the next couple of years, they'll either get them durable enough that nobody will have any question about them or they're gonna die off, one of the two. And they're going in the right direction as far as that. So here, a couple of years ago, I thought, look, how do you know until you try? And I'm like you, I didn't really look at them as being a positive, but I've now got 4 handguns. I've got a Glock 17 with a Trijicon RMR on it. I've got a Shadow Systems with basically the Glock 19 clone with an RMR on it. I've got one of your Sig 320s that was cut for the in-point acro, and I've got an acro on one of the X9 5 inches. So I've got 4 guns. I shoot pretty regular with them. You're spot on. First off, you say, what do you want it for? What's your mission? And if you're talking about shooting at real world distances, there's no advantage. Now I know that there's guys going to get butthurt over this and they're going to make comments. I don't care. But anybody that tells you can shoot them faster and as accurate as iron sights at 10 yards an end, yeah, maybe you can, but now you're adding $500 or whatever it is to the gun and the modifications. The interface from the red dot to the gun is the weak link. That you know that and I know that. Number 2, I'm going to tell you what nobody wants to hear. It takes you a minimum of 1,000, more likely 2,000 rounds to get to the point where you can find a dot and it's there when you need it.
Yeah.
Well, in today's ammo market, now you're going to add what? $1,200 to the cost of this process. For what? You say, oh yeah, but cool kids have red dots, right? I got to have a light on the gun. You got to put it in a Kydex holster and stick it down pointed at your junk to be cool. And then put your shirt tail over it and I can do 1-second draws. Now mind you, they got a gun that's the size of a King James Bible and that's what they stuff down the front of their pants. Now, if you want to do it, cool, I don't care. If you want to get a mohawk haircut, cool. If you want to put an earring someplace, cool. I'm not buying into it. I think the red dots, for me, and I've tested, man, I've shot a lot of rounds playing with them. You're at spot on at 15 yards. Actually, for me, it's right about 18 yards. From there on, the red dot sight, my proficiency, accuracy is spot on. Get back to 20, 25, I can shoot so much better and probably a little quicker because I don't have to mess with sight alignment. Here's what I tell people. If you're a 1911 guy, you know how to maintain a gun, because a 1911 design pistol takes more maintenance. It's got to be a little cleaner. It's not a Glock. It's got to be lubricated. You've got to stay on top of your gun. If you're a guy that doesn't like to clean your guns to lube them, buy a Glock.
Yeah.
That red dot sight to me is in the same category. It takes more maintenance and more care, and you have to stay on top of the gun more than you would a gun without them. So if you got a gun you just stick in your nightstand, and you may never touch it or check it or look at it until 2 years later when something goes bang in the night, that may not be your best pick.
And what happens when you're out and it's pouring down rain? And you have a dot sight?
Or in the cold, going from cold to warm, warm to cold. There's a lot of things that people don't want to admit. The draw stroke. I tell people, if you go out and shoot on a regular basis, I know I go out and shoot. One thing, if I do the natural press out that you do, it takes me longer to find a dot. If I do what they call the elevator technique, where I bring the gun up to I can pick up the dot quicker. But that's not what I usually do. And by the way, probably not what you're going to do when you're fighting for your life. The other issue that I don't think people quite grasp is it takes more proficiency to stay competent with it. You go out and say, okay, I took a class from some rock star, and I know how to use this, and I'm not going to go to the range and shoot again until this time next month. You're going to find out it's probably not going to work well. If you do it on a regular basis, to keep that repetition to the point where you build it, to the point where you find the dot and you get the recovery. You know, I tell people, they say, oh, well, they're great for shooting on the move. If you're moving at the target, trilateral, gets ugly pretty fast. So I don't drink the Kool-Aid. I've got them. I think the Acro is the future. The new P2, which takes a 2032 battery and has a real battery life now, I think the enclosed emitter is the future. Open emitters, I think is a bogus for fighting gun. For a game gun or range plinking gun, I get all the time, and you heard this, Bill, well, I'm getting old now and I can't see and I'm going to need red dot sight on my pistol. And I always go, okay. If you don't have all day to bring that gun out and find that dot and shoot, you can shoot pretty well. But if you're going to do it quickly, sometimes it kind of goes off track. How well do you do strong hand with it? How about switching your weak hand? How well can you perform it? Because in recoil, where does what's your recovery of the dot time? So there are pluses, and everybody wants to brag about the pluses. That's all you want to hear on the internet. All these things are a big advantage. There's some real negatives. I think the closed emitters are the future. We'll see. But have I got them? Yes. Have I said that I feel like I'm at a disadvantage without one? No. And I'm like you. I don't see nearly as well as I used to. It's one of my big limiting factors. But the distances I really use a handgun for self-defense, iron sights are just fine. And if you look at the military, the average police officer, the average person in the private sector, they're probably not going to see as benefit from the red dot sight that they've been led to believe. I'll tell you what you see in law enforcement. I'm seeing this a lot now. Agencies and academies now are saying we're going to allow police officers to put red dot sights in their gun. Here's what it comes down to. You're in an academy, you're a firearm instructor academy, and they're going to bring in a class of students. Your job as a firearm instructor to make sure they qualify. That's your job. Now, here's what I would tell. Here's what's happening. They realize you take people and you put a red dot sight on their pistol, as long as time is not a major problem, that they will shoot a better score. Particularly at distance, not in close, but at distance, because where they fail is at 25, 30, 40, whatever the long range. That's where they don't hit the target. Put the red dot sight on, they can pass the qualification. So they're saying, okay, they're approved. Now you take the same person, put them out in the street, and they carry the gun every day. They don't maintain it. They don't check it. They don't stay proficient, because guess what? They don't go to the range but once or twice a year. And all of a sudden they got to jerk the gun out of the holster in a fight and be proficient. Oh man, that's smoking crack. But that's the world we live in. So I think you and I are pretty on the same page. I think that red dot sights are the trend of the future. Not necessarily say the necessity of the future, but a trend. And we see that direction. Now let me ask you something, Bill. Guns that currently have had a big impact in the marketplace, pistols in particular. The first one, I think you and I would have talked about, agreed. There's no doubt in my mind, the Sig P365 he's probably had one of the greatest impacts of all new gun designs that come down the road.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely a game changer for the subcompact category.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're a great little gun.
Yeah, and no, it's a great little gun. And they went through, like all new products, there's a maturity period. But I tell people, look at how many companies now have tried to emulate them. I mean, it's almost a non-ending chain of people trying to compete with the Sig 365.
Yeah.
I heard from a rumor, that's a rumor, okay? Their production's over 1,000 a day.
Wow, it's a lot of guns.
That's a lot of guns. Tells you how successful they are.
Yeah. Well, we've got a new product coming out soon for the 365, so that's really good information, Ken.
Cool. Now, the second one, I think you and I would agree on, Bill. This gun right here, what's your comments as far as its impact on the market?
Smith & Wesson Shield. Well, prior to the 365, it was the big dog in the subcompact market.
Yeah.
Let's face it. You know, Smith did a great job on that gun, and they've got it to have sold a blue million of them. You know, and it was the benchmark until the 365 came on the market.
Bingo.
You know, I mean, it's not a bad gun. I mean, they have a good reputation for reliability, shooting halfway decent, and they're nice and flat and easy to conceal. You know, I mean,
and price point wise, they were pretty attractive.
Price point wise, very attractive. You know, the original single stack one, I mean, it's very, very concealable. You know, if you're okay
and pretty shootable too.
Yeah, if you're okay with 7-ish rounds or something like that, so it's a good choice.
How about the next one?
P320 series, which is our, basically our new military, service weapon. Let's face it, I mean, whether you like it or not, now that it's the accepted military service weapon, it'll be like the 1911 and the M9 Beretta 92 series. It's going to be with us for a long, long time.
Bingo.
Yeah, and as far as polymer frame guns go, it's absolutely, it's actually one of my favorites. I mean, I like the Sig, I like the Walthers, and I'm pretty happy with the H&K VP9 series guns. I'm
like guns with good triggers.
Yeah, I'm like you. I'm not a huge Glock guy.
Yeah, staple gun triggers kind of.
Yeah, it's a combination for me of the trigger and the grip angle. I mean, every time I pick up a Glock after shooting all the other guns that had basically the same grip angle as a 1911 I'm so used to, the damn Glock's pointed at the sky, and I don't want to shoot one enough to get to where I draw it out of the holster and it points naturally for me.
When the Beretta first came out, the M9, like a lot of people, 1911 guy, man, I was somewhat offended that this pizza pistol is going to be the new service pistol. But since I was in the training business, I knew I was going to have to deal with the military. I went out and bought one. I better learn how to use it. What I found out, somewhat to my dismay, is not only is it a really good pistol, incredibly reliable, soft shooting, accurate. And I came from a revolver school, so the DA trigger didn't. I came to like the gun. As a matter of fact, it's one of our favorite pistols now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're great guns. I'll be honest with you, when I first examples of the Sig 320 I shot, I was pretty negative about. I kind of I have no desire to own one of these things. And again, Sig Sauer was faced with a maturity issue. In order to get that gun accepted by the U.S. military, they had to make a lot of improvements. Some, like the drop issues, initially that haunted them, they corrected it. The gun is, I'm going to say, in my opinion, Bill, and you guys have a little bit more experience than I do from the manufacturer standpoint, I think that gun is probably well over 90% into its maturity program. There's a couple areas I suspicion will maybe addressed down the road, but they don't overall impact that much as far as a gun. I got a M17 and I shot a little bit. I was like, I think it was not bad.
Yeah.
To me, when you brought out the Wilson Combat Grip Module, the weak link in the 320 to me was a grip. It just didn't fit. I don't know anybody that said, I really like this grip. You put the new Wilson Combat Grip Module on the gun, and to me, that changed the gun literally, dramatically. Since it's been on the market, you and I both know, not only is that component incredibly successful, it's hard to find anybody that says, I don't like it.
Yeah.
If you're a Sig 320 guy and you haven't tried a Wilson Combat Grip Module, you're missing the boat. All right. Next gun on the list, which I think has had a pretty dramatic effect on the market, is the Staccato. Now, a lot of people say, what's the Staccato? It was formerly STI, down in your neck of the woods down in Texas. They were around for a long time. They built a gun primarily for the competition market.
Yes.
And when that gun was introduced, Virgil Tripp, our friend Chip McCormick, and was it Sandy Strayer that was involved in that? Remember, that was a 45 world. They tried to make a gun that was a double stack 45 magazine. Didn't work very well. 45, I mean, they just didn't function right. The magazine was a mistake. Eventually evolved to like 40 calibers and 38 Super 9mm, but they never were that reliable. Well, a new investor group bought out STI, and they looked at, okay, what's our problems here? And one of the ones, they changed the name, smart move, by the way, from STI, which if you Google up STI, you get sexually transmitted infections. So I think they changed the name to Staccato. They said, we're going to get away from the competition market. That's not a very big market. We're going to go to the self-defense service pistol market. So the Staccato line. They went to 9mm. So we're going to drop this other stuff. And they did a smart move. You know, they looked at the magazine, which Ray Charles could see, this thing is a dog. And they went to Checkmate and said, make us a magazine, double magazine tube, stack tube, that will work with 9mm. We need a follower, we need the magazine to work. And they designed them a new magazine that works great. The end result is they built a pistol on a Staccato P, and they've got a number of other versions using that magazine. Guess what? They run.
And now they work.
They work, and the guns shoot great, and they build a nice pistol. It has become incredibly popular. My guess is they're probably struggling to keep up with the demand because it has probably exceeded their desire. Now, a Staccato P to me is kind of like, if you look the guns we talked about earlier, your new series of SF X9s, they're very similar as far as capacity and everything. But your gun is a design that's primarily a concealed carry gun. The Staccato, because it inherited the STI configuration, is more of a duty range gun. Now they do make a version called the C2, which is a shorter magazine, shorter gun, but it's still a big, fat, thick gun. Like your new gun, the SF X9 versus say their C2, their compact, I think your gun probably has a lot more virtue as far as being a concealable gun. And as far as functional reliable, your gun runs hollow points. I don't think, you know, mine's never bought. Everything I put in it, it's run.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're reliable.
Again, the Staccato has had an effect. It's pretty prominent. It's kind of one of the cool kid guns right now. If you're a cool kid, you could have a red dot, a light on it. It's kind of a holster. It looks like you've got, you know, a six-pack on your belt, but it's very popular.
Okay, Ken, the last one on our list here is a gun called the Alien. I am not at all familiar with this gun, but I'm very curious. Tell me about it.
My buddy Larry Vickers at the 2020 SHOT Show, right before the COVID disaster, said, hey, you need to go check this thing out. And I went and looked at it. First off, it looks like the alien, the critter in the movie. It does. It's bizarre looking. And it's made in Czechoslovakia by a group of guys who've never done the firearms thing. They kind of put their head together. And it's designed kind of pretty much as what we'll call an IPSC competition gun, not as a service pistol or self-defense handgun. And it kind of, they were so out of the box, they violated all the rules. And I looked at the gun and I was somewhat amazed. I mean, the way they approach it now, I'm not so sure it's got a tremendous future, but the fact that they went way out of the box. First off, imagine a P7 with the gas retarded piston on top. So you basically got a direct blowback gun that's gas retarded. It's actually hammer fired, but instead of a hammer coming up this way, it kind of comes down from the top. It's bizarre. It's got an incredible trigger. A trigger that's so light, it's a competition trigger, but man, it's amazing. The top of the slide is like fixed. The slide cycles, but the sights don't move. Or you change that, it's got a replacement panel that goes on like a pick rail that your red dot stays and doesn't move. You know, your gun cycles, but the sights never change. You can imagine shooting a gun with iron sights and in recoil, you don't lose the sights. They stay right where they're at, or the dot. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Now, they've already run into some problems with feed angles and ammunition and stuff because it was designed in Europe and everybody shoots ball ammo. You bring it to America and we tend to shoot truncated flat nose and 147s and different hollow points, and they had to do some changes because the reliability kind of suffered, but it was easy to fix. And they'll probably be making others one, but if you look at the gun, Google up Alien pistol. It's bizarre, and those guys were so far out of the box when they created that, it makes everybody step back a step. And I think if you're part of the gun culture, you do have to look at that. Limitations on designing guns, because the gun guys, we somewhat impose them because this is what we want and it's what we're used to. These guys went way out of the box. So Google it up and check it out, Bill.
Very interesting.
You'll shake your head, but to me, it's interesting and very important because it may be somewhat of an indicator of the future.
Cool.
Listen, folks, I hope you enjoyed this. Bill and I tried to share a little information that we thought might be of interest to you. Again, Wilson Combat YouTube channel, Gun Guys. Follow us down the road. We promise to bring you more good stuff. Stay safe. Take care. Until next time.